He immediately kissed his madam. Shocked and confused, she looked at him angrily. "What did you just do?" she said. But little did she know that the very kiss she deemed disrespectful had just saved her life. This is the story of a poor man called Tony, who worked as a gateman for a rich young lady for years. One very day he had to make a crazy decision that would either end his life or save his boss's life. After watching this story, you will understand everything. However, I must warn you, this story will leave you at the edge of your seat. So, if you haven't subscribed, do that now, and share with your story lover friends and family. Grab a popcorn, and let's go into the world of this interesting story. Tony was a poor man with so much ambition, he had lost his job for months and searched everywhere for another. He walked down the street that evening after carrying his documents around the city all day. But when he arrived home, he was met with chaos. His belongings were packed outside. "Leave my house now," the woman screamed as she threw more of his things outside. "What is going on? Please, you're breaking my things. Careful. Stop it," Tony begged, but the woman continued. She was his landlady, a very mean old woman. She walked closer and pointed at him. "You are a useless man, do you know that? You have been jobless for months. I gave you chances, but you have not paid your rent. Madam, please give me just 1 month. I'll make it up to you. Please give me a chance." Tony begged, but she was not interested. He was thrown out like trash and rendered homeless in an instant. Then suddenly his phone rang. "Hello, is this Tony?" a voice asked. He was confused. Nobody had called him in months. All his friends had abandoned him. "Your job application has been accepted. You can come in. We will send you the address and details," the person said. Tony jumped for joy and knelt down, thankful. He had submitted his CV to multiple companies. "What company? Which of them accepted me?" he asked quickly. The caller sounded puzzled. "Company? Are you not the one that applied for the Gateman role?" Tony's eyes nearly fell out of their sockets. His heart pounded as he clutched his chest. Gateman? What? But how could he reject any job? He was jobless, homeless, with nowhere to go. "I'm a computer scientist. How can I be a gateman?" he thought as he wiped the dirt from his clothes. "Yes, Ma. I will be there." "Thank you," Tony said gratefully, though deep inside he felt sad. The next morning he got dressed, ready for the interview. After sleeping outside under a tree near a rusted shed, he decided to follow the address and the message. But when he got there, he was stunned. It was a gigantic house with massive gates, pools, and a water fountain. Suddenly, a beautiful woman drove in and stepped out. She wore a red tailored suit, her walk clean-cut and prideful. She approached him and shouted, "What are you standing there looking at? Close the gate." Tony was absolutely shocked, but instantly ran to the gate and locked the massive mansion gate. "Also, I'll have you know that's your house. The gateman's house is over there," the woman said before walking off. The gateman's house was a very small place by the corner of the compound. When Tony walked in, it looked dirty, and worse than the simple house he had lived in before losing his job. But what could he do? He had to manage it. Little did he know he was about to face even more hardship. His boss, Madame Remy, had a boyfriend. She was a working-class woman who could have focused on her life, but chose to date a man of lower class. Her boyfriend was a handsome younger man with no ambition. All he did was drink at home and play video games. But Madame Remy never complained. She seemed satisfied with the validation and status he gave her in society. She paraded herself with her boyfriend Kelly, pretending he was responsible, but deep down he was a major red flag. Madame Remy and Kelly soon found Tony to be their latest victim and were very mean to him. One Sunday afternoon, as Remy and Kelly prepared to go on a date, Madame Remy stepped out in a beautiful gown, and together they shouted, "Where's that stupid gateman, Tony?" Immediately, Tony ran to the gate without question and opened it for them. This continued for months until a humbling experience struck. Madame Remy began to notice that someone was stealing money from her company. "What is going on here? I put 300,000 here last week and now it's gone." She complained in frustration. "I wonder what could be causing this." "Check your data analysis," Kelly said as he consoled her. I checked and it's still not showing any evidence. I'll call a computer scientist to confirm this later. I don't know if my system has been hacked, Remy replied with worry in her eyes. Kelly held her and spoke comforting words. Don't worry. When I catch the person responsible for this, I'll deal with them. You work so hard for your money, and I appreciate you. I'll never let this go scot-free, he said, leaning closer to her. Who could be responsible for this mayhem? Who was stealing from Madame Remy? The question lingered until one very day, when Remy returned home with big groceries. Tony, help me carry these things inside, she called. Tony obediently lifted the heavy bags and followed behind her as she got on a call. Yes, sir. Good afternoon. I've been trying to reach you for the past 4 days now. Have you checked the link I sent to you? Someone is stealing from me, and I need to know as soon as possible. Please check it for me and get back to me, Remy said, as she walked into the house, pointing to the kitchen for Tony to drop the items. Tony stood back, thinking to himself. He could hear some of the things being said and knew he was capable of handling the issue, but he was scared of interfering. After all, he was just a gateman. My dear viewer, this is a sign to follow your dreams without fear or intimidation. Whatever step you need to take to soar higher in life, do it now. Because what Tony did next will shock you. He stood behind the kitchen door as the person called Madame Remy again. Yes, sir. Please. Any solutions yet? No solutions? Oh no, please, my money. There has to be a way. Please help me, she cried. But there was nothing the person could do. Kelly walked into the parlor and saw his woman sad. I'm so sorry, my love. Everything happens for a reason. We have called the best people and there is no solution. We will rise some other time. Don't let it bother you, he said as he held her. As if holding her would save her money from being extorted daily by this strange person. But suddenly, Tony stepped forward. I can help. Please, can I take a look at your laptop? Kelly looked at Tony from head to toe. Tony's clothes were dirty, torn, and worn out. His hair was barely combed and his skin was rough and sweaty from all the day's work. Who gave you the audacity to indulge in our conversation, you gateman? Kelly said angrily. Remy turned and glared at him. I asked you to carry groceries and you decided to come into our conversation. You're just a gateman. Get out of my house now. Aren't you supposed to be at the gate? The two of them chased Tony out angrily, disregarding him as a nobody. Yet, there was once a time when Tony had been the best computer scientist in the city, until something happened that led to staff cuts. And since then, he had not been lucky enough to find another job. The drama only grew worse daily, as Remy watched millions leave her account. She called every professional she knew, but nothing could be done. They all came, tried, and left without solutions, never realizing the answer wasn't far away. One afternoon, after $580,000 had been drained from Madame Remy's account, she sat alone and thought to herself, oh well, I have nothing to lose. He's the only one I haven't given a chance. That day, she carried her laptop and walked out of the house, straight to Tony's small house by the corner. She knocked on the door and immediately Tony came outside greeting her. Madam, good afternoon. I'm surprised you came to my house today. Hope all is well, Tony said. I'm fine, thank you. I want you to help me with this. That day you said you could solve it, the billionaire replied as she leaned closer, offering Tony her laptop. Yes, Ma. I believe I can do it. Please, just give me some time, Tony said, as he collected the laptop and swiftly began looking through different files. In that instant, Kelly walked in and saw Tony with Remy's laptop. His blood boiled as he shouted, Babe, how could you give your laptop to this gateman? All your private details are in this laptop. But the moment Kelly said, private details? It was like a bulb lit up in Tony's head. What if the person who did this is someone close to her? Someone who has her details? That would explain why it's been so hard to detect. Whoever did this is someone she trusts enough to give her passwords and everything. I need to use tighter codes for this, Tony thought to himself. Immediately he jumped with shock, as not only did the account become protected from further theft, but all the stolen money bounced back into the account. Wait, my money is back, Remy exclaimed in shock and excitement. She didn't even realize when she hugged Tony with joy. But someone was not happy. That person was Kelly. He was the guilty one, the very thief behind it all. Even after everything Remy had done for him, he still wanted to drag her to the ground. Remy was excited. This was the biggest day of her life. Her company was finally about to launch. The investors were gathered, the media was waiting, and everyone expected a powerful announcement. But Remy had decided that today was not just about her company. It was about truth. She was ready to reveal the hero who saved everything. Tony, the poor gateman who had been despised and mocked. Ladies and gentlemen, she rehearsed proudly. Today I will show you the man who protected my company from destruction, the true genius behind our survival. But someone was boiling with rage. Kelly. He had watched Remy's loyalty shift away from him, and in his twisted pride he thought, so this is how she repays me? By honoring a useless gateman over me? Never. If she thinks she can humiliate me, I'll make sure she never forgets this day. In his mind, he plotted. This was not going to be Remy's moment of glory. This was going to be her downfall. Kelly smiled on the outside, pretending to support her. But deep inside, he had already made up his mind. If I can't have her in her company, then nobody will. And just before the launch began, he struck his first move. But Kelly's jealousy had reached a deadly level. He no longer wanted to just sabotage Remy. He wanted her gone. Forever. So he made a dark decision. He paid a man to assassinate Remy on stage, right at the moment she would introduce Tony as her hero. Tony, on the other hand, had no idea what was coming. In his tiny, rough room, he smiled to himself for the first time in years. Finally, he was about to be recognized. Finally, he would stand before the world, not as a gateman, but as a savior. He closed his eyes and slept in peace, never knowing that tomorrow would bring blood, betrayal, and a shocking twist that would change everything. The next morning arrived. Tony woke up in his small, cramped room with excitement written all over his face. He stood in front of the broken mirror, straightening his old shirt and whispering to himself, "This is my day, my chance. No one will ever look at me as just a gateman again. Today they'll see the real Tony." He smiled nervously, repeating the words again, trying to calm his racing heart. Meanwhile, in the mansion, Remy sat in her dressing room. Her makeup artist worked silently while she rehearsed her speech in front of the mirror. "Ladies and gentlemen, today I introduce to you the man who saved everything, Tony." She paused, smiled, and nodded proudly. Moments later, Tony entered the house. For the first time, Remy didn't just see her gatekeeper. She saw her hero. Overwhelmed, Tony stepped forward and hugged her. "Thank you, madam," he said softly, "for believing in me." Remy returned the hug with a gentle smile. Unaware that behind the scenes, death was already waiting for her, Kelly had paid the assassin. The stage was set. The hall was filled with light, cameras flashing everywhere as investors, journalists, and guests settled down for the launch. Remy, elegant in her gown, stepped onto the stage with confidence. She held the microphone, her voice echoing through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for believing in me. This company stands today because one man, an unexpected hero, chose to fight for me when no one else would. And today, I want the world to see him." The crowd erupted in applause. "Please welcome Tony." Tony's heart pounded as he rose from his seat and began climbing the stairs to the stage. His legs trembled, but his spirit was on fire. "This is it. This is my moment." But then, he froze. On Remy's chest, he saw it. A faint, glowing red dot. His eyes widened. No, she's being targeted. The assassin had her in his sights. In that split second, Tony made a decision that even he didn't understand. He rushed forward and kissed Remy. The hall gasped. Cameras flashed wildly, but high above, through the scope, the assassins cursed in confusion. The sudden movement blocked their view. The kiss shielded Remy. They couldn't pull the trigger. And in that one crazy, shocking moment, Tony's so-called disrespectful kiss had just saved her life. Kelly's face went pale the moment the red dot wavered. For a second, he looked like a man seeing his whole world collapse. Then rage snapped him open. No. No, kill them both. If you can't, get her, get him too. Finish it. He screamed from the side entrance, his voice raw and dangerous. The words cut through the music, the applause, the hum of cameras. At first, people thought he'd lost his mind. Then someone in the front row heard and repeated it louder. Did he just say they should target Tony too? A guest muttered. Like a match to dry grass, the sentence spread. Whisper became shout. Phones were raised. Security pivoted. Reporters craned their necks toward the venue's side, where Kelly stood livid and wild-eyed. Who told you to say that? Kelly barked at anyone who came near. He pushed a man out of the way, his hands trembling. The crowd recoiled in disgust. No, this is madness, someone shouted. An older woman in the audience stepped forward, indignant. You can't be serious. He just told them to kill someone. Her voice was sharp as a whip. People surged toward the entrance. Curiosity turned to fury. Security tried to form a line, but the crowd moved faster. Voices overlapped. Anger, betrayal, disbelief. Men shoved Kelly. A reporter shouted into a live stream. Kelly just called for an attack. Witnesses are saying he ordered the hit. A hand found Kelly's collar. You heard him, he said, finish them, someone cried. Others began pushing, shouting about motives, about money, about jealousy. Faces turned hard with the horror of what the man beside them had almost allowed. Kelly lunged, tried to shout an excuse, but his words were drowned by a chorus of accusation. The crowd closed in around him. Someone slapped him. Another punched his shoulder. People ripped at his designer jacket, exposing the cheapness beneath. Cameras captured every stuttered denial. Within minutes, someone had already dialed the police. You need to come now. There's a man here inciting violence, a voice said into a phone, breathless. Blue lights painted the glass doors as sirens wailed in the distance. Security finally hauled Kelly toward the waiting steps, hands pinned, as angry guests pressed forward demanding justice and answers. As officers cuffed him and led him away, his eyes met Remy's across the stage, a mixture of fury and utter defeat. He screamed one last time, but the words were muffled by the roar of the crowd and the flash of cameras. On stage, Tony stood frozen, the weight of what he'd done settling in. Remy clung to him, trembling but alive. The hall buzzed with one thought. If Kelly would do this, who else had he hired? Who else was involved? In that moment, Remy hugged Tony tightly on stage, her voice shaking with gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for protecting me, she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. The hall erupted in cheers. In front of everyone, Remy raised Tony's hand and declared, From today forward, this man is not just a gateman. He is the reason this company stands, and I proudly promote him as chief of staffs. The investors stood in applause. Other companies rushed forward, begging to hire Tony, each one desperate to claim his brilliance. Remy then turned back to him, her eyes soft. Forgive me, she said, for being so mean to you in the beginning. I was blind to your worth. Meanwhile, Kelly rotted behind bars, his schemes destroyed, his reputation gone forever. And so the poor man who was once mocked, who slept in the dirt with nothing, rose higher than anyone ever imagined. Because he never gave up on himself. Moral of the story: never look down on anyone, because the person you despise today may be the one to save your life tomorrow. Respect every human being, no matter their position. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share with your friends and family, so you don't miss the next powerful story coming your way.